Venom didn't fall from space. He was thrown. Iron Man's suits melted. Hulk's strength collapsed. Earth's heroes failed in the first 5 minutes. And Venom whispered only one name: Peter. Spider-Man didn't run. He knew. This wasn't a fight. It was a choice. Kill the symbiote or become what it fears. And Peter did something no one could have predicted. The sky cracked open without warning. It wasn't a comet. It wasn't a ship. It was alive. A black, oily sphere the size of a city block tore through the atmosphere and smashed into lower Manhattan, erasing 6 buildings before anyone could scream. Sirens didn't wail. They choked. Everything digital went silent. Phones died. Drones fell from the air. Traffic lights flickered once and then turned black. And then it started moving. Not crawling, growing. From a smoking crater, a pulsating, breathing mass of pure midnight expanded across the street, swallowing cars, lampposts, entire fire trucks. It didn't roar. It whispered. 1,000 voices, unintelligible at first, until they started forming a single word: Peter. Iron Man got there first. Tony streaked in from above, HUD already flickering from the interference. Jarvis analyzed, but before he could finish, the black mass surged upward, wrapped around the suit like a vine, and sliced through the left repulsor like butter. His arms spiraled into the air, burning. The suit locked up. He fell hard. Tony wasn't knocked out. That would have been mercy. He was watching the thing study him, probe his tech, then hiss in a voice dripping with pleasure: "Not you." That's when the Hulk landed. Bruce had been holding back. No one wanted to destroy Manhattan a second time. But when he saw Tony bleeding beneath something that looked like Venom, but bigger, wetter, and impossibly ancient, he snapped. A thunderclap shook the skyline. Hulk barreled into the creature, smashing it into a skyscraper. The building folded like paper. For a moment, there was silence. Then the black mass oozed through Hulk's fists, wrapped around his arms, and started choking his rage. Not physically, mentally. Hulk's eyes widened, then burned red. Then, he started punching himself. On a rooftop 2 blocks away, Peter Parker stood in jeans and a hoodie, mask in his pocket, hands trembling. He didn't say a word. He just watched. Because he knew. This wasn't Venom. It was the one that came before Venom. The one that spawned the first symbiote. The one that had been thrown to Earth as punishment, exiled by its own species because it had consumed every host it ever touched. And it wanted him. Peter. The voice echoed from the streets, from the broken glass, from the very air. Aunt May's apartment flashed in Peter's mind. MJ, Ned, all of them. He wasn't afraid for himself. He was afraid for what he'd do if he lost. The black ooze reached up and took shape. 8 feet tall, eyes like warped galaxies, a mouth that didn't open so much as split. It stood over Iron Man and a nearly unconscious Hulk and said one word again, softly this time: Peter. Peter jumped. No webs, just gravity. He dropped between the monster and Tony. No suit, just his own skin, his own fear. "You came all this way for me," Peter said. The creature tilted its head. "You were always the key." He was just the door. It pointed to Tony, and tendrils slithered back into the mass. Peter took a breath. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the mask. He didn't put it on. "Then take me." The thing lunged, but not like an attack, like a handshake. The symbiote swallowed Peter whole in one motion. No fight, no struggle. But Peter didn't fall. Inside the blackness, his eyes opened, and he saw everything. The hive, billions of memories, worlds consumed, heroes broken, planets turned to soup. But one face kept echoing through them all. His. The creature didn't want to kill Peter. It wanted to be him. And Peter, for a moment, considered letting it happen, letting go, giving in. But something small whispered back. Uncle Ben's voice, Gwen's scream, MJ's laugh, Aunt May's tears. Every moment he failed. Every moment he got back up. "You're not me," Peter whispered. Inside the symbiote's mind, the world began to crack. The creature shrieked, not in pain, but confusion. "You forgive." Peter nodded. "I hate myself sometimes, but I don't stay there." That's the difference. The blackness twisted, tried to flee, but Peter grabbed it. You wanted me? Then stay. He held the symbiote inside his mind, not as a host, but as a prison. A one-way door, no exit. Just his guilt and his memories, forever replaying like chains. The creature screamed. It had consumed rage, greed, bloodlust, but it had never tasted acceptance. Outside, Iron Man watched as the black tendrils peeled back, not because they were defeated, but because they were retreating, confused, broken. Spider-Man stood in the center of the street, suit torn, face visible, and something still flickering beneath his skin, a black pulse just beneath the veins. The main mass slithered backward into the sewers, escaping. Not dead, not done, but wounded, scared. Hulk groaned as he sat up. What did you do? Peter didn't answer. He walked over to Tony, lifted him with one arm, and said quietly, "This isn't over." Because deep inside his head, where only he could hear it, the voice whispered again, "You didn't win. You shared me." And Peter knew. That was just the beginning. Peter sat on the edge of a rooftop, staring at his own hands. They weren't normal anymore. The black vein lines pulsing under his skin weren't fading. They were spreading, slowly. Every 5 seconds, another millimeter of dark web crept up his neck. His vision blurred for a split second every minute. His hearing was picking up sounds from 5 blocks away. Whispers, phones vibrating, glass cracking. He blinked and saw someone else's reflection in the glass. The symbiote wasn't gone. It had retreated, yes, but not out of fear. It was watching. Iron Man landed beside him, half his suit still damaged. He didn't speak immediately. He scanned Peter first. The HUD flashed red. Symbiote residue. 37% neural integration detected. Tony removed his helmet and looked him in the eye. "You didn't push it out, did you?" Peter shook his head. "I didn't win. I made a deal." Tony stiffened. "That thing came from deep space. You don't negotiate with ancient parasites." Peter turned toward him, eyes darker than they should have been. "You didn't see what I saw. It's not just a parasite. It's a..." Suddenly he froze. Both hands clenched. Something shifted inside his skull. Voices. At first like whispers behind a wall. Then the wall cracked. Then shattered. Peter stood up violently, gripping his head. His knees buckled. His breath caught mid-throat. He wasn't alone anymore. In the back of his mind, no longer trapped. The symbiote was replaying every memory Peter ever tried to bury. Gwen falling. Uncle Ben bleeding. Flash's mocking laugh. The night he failed to save the bus full of kids. The time he let the robber go. The moment he screamed at Aunt May and slammed the door. Each failure perfectly sharpened, weaponized. Peter staggered, sweating, eyes bloodshot. "Get out," he muttered. But the voice was louder now, mocking. "You wear guilt like a suit. I just fit in." Tony grabbed his shoulder. "Kid, Peter, you're glitching. We can sedate you. I've got something in the lab." "No," Peter growled. And then he punched Tony straight in the arc reactor. The repulsor core sparked, and Iron Man flew back 20 feet into a water tank, crushing steel. Peter didn't move, but his shadow did. Behind him, a second silhouette stood, identical, but taller. Black tendrils hovered around it like steam. It wasn't Peter, but it was made from him. Venom was evolving. It wasn't just feeding on Peter's body. It was learning his thoughts, his regrets, his morals, and twisting them. And then it began spreading, not physically, but through Peter. He dropped to his knees, slammed both fists into the roof, and screamed through clenched teeth. Across Manhattan, several people collapsed at the same time. A woman on the subway grabbed her face as black webbing leaked from her nose. A kid riding a scooter screamed as his shadow shifted and attacked his legs. A Wall Street banker vomited ink onto the pavement, and every one of them whispered, "Peter." Hulk smashed through a nearby building, grabbing Peter by the chest. "You said you had it under control." Peter stared at him, eyes flickering between red and brown. "So did you." The symbiote pulsed from Peter into Hulk's arm. Bruce screamed, dropped him instantly. and backed away as his fingers started to split open with dark veins. "Back off," Peter yelled. "It's me it wants." Tony crawled from the wreckage. "Then give it what it wants." Peter's head snapped toward him. "I already did." But it wasn't enough. Inside his mind, he wasn't alone anymore. The memories weren't just his. They were now infected. Twisted versions of his past played on loop. MJ turning to dust. Aunt May being pulled into space. Ned suffocating under black webbing. False visions, illusions, designed to trigger him. But Peter was still Peter. He stood up, cracking his knuckles. The symbiote inside him roared, trying to paralyze him. But he pushed through. If this thing fed on guilt, he'd feed it everything. He dove inward, mentally, focused on every failure, every mistake. He forced the symbiote to feel what he felt, not rage, not hunger, responsibility. "I let people die," Peter said aloud. "I've failed more than I've won, and I'll keep failing." The symbiote shrieked inside his bones. "But I still wake up. I still put on the mask. You want to be part of me." His fists clenched, web fluid boiling in his wrists. Then you feel the whole thing. Not just the pain, the weight. Suddenly the shadow behind him started twitching, then gasping, then splitting. The venom form made from Peter's guilt couldn't handle the contradiction. The strength wasn't in the hate, it was in the forgiveness. Peter turned to Tony. "You said you had something in the lab." Tony nodded cautiously. "EMP burst. Enough to fry the symbiote, but it'll hit your nervous system too." Peter stepped forward. "Prep it. We've got 5 minutes. Then I'll give you the signal." Hulk stood up, black sludge dripping from his arm, but his eyes finally cleared. "You sure you'll survive?" Peter looked around. Civilians stumbling in the distance. Dozens of infected whispering his name. "I'm not doing this to survive." He launched himself into the air, black tendrils still flickering from his suit, like fire licking his back. Inside his head, the voice shrieked, "You cannot change what you are." Peter grinned grimly. "I know." Then he swung through the screams, right into the center of the infected zone. Hundreds of hosts turned their heads at once. "Peter," they said in unison. He landed, cracked his knuckles, and said the one thing they didn't expect. "I forgive you." And everything froze. Just for 11 seconds, the hive mind hesitated. That was the signal. In the distance, Iron Man slammed the red button. A pulse of pure energy roared across the block, frying circuits, blacking out every screen for 10 miles. Peter collapsed. The infected hosts dropped like puppets with cut strings. Silence. Tony flew in, pulse scanner blinking. No heartbeat. Then, one. Peter gasped, coughing ink, but he was alive. Barely. Tony knelt beside him. "How the hell did you do that?" Peter looked up and whispered, "Because I'm still me, even when it's not." Then everything went black. The sky didn't turn red. It turned silent. Even the clouds stopped moving, as if the planet was holding its breath. 37 infected bodies lay unconscious across Manhattan, but the black webbing around their eyes hadn't vanished. It pulsed, flickered, waiting. Beneath Stark Tower, Peter Parker lay strapped to a medical rig, heart rate dangerously low, eyes twitching behind swollen lids. Electrodes covered his skin, glowing with a rhythm that didn't match any human pattern. His blood ran darker, denser. Tony paced like a man with no answers. "Vitals are stable," Friday reported, "but the symbiote residue is still inside his neurons. It's adapting." Bruce walked in holding a vial. "I analyzed the fragments from the street. That wasn't just venom." Tony didn't even look up. "We already knew that." Bruce dropped the vial into Tony's hand. "It's not just some new form. It's a hive transmitter, a living beacon." Tony's stomach sank. "You mean it was calling something?" "No," Bruce said grimly. "It was the call." And just then, every building light flickered. Every screen turned black. Then a single word appeared on all of them. No matter the language, no matter the tech. Precursor, arrival imminent. Peter's body jerked upward, as if yanked by a rope. His back arched, his mouth opened, and a voice came out that wasn't his. "She's here." The screens went static, and in the sky, something cracked. It wasn't thunder. It was the fabric of space. A vertical wound opened above Earth's orbit, shimmering violet at the edges. Something moved inside, then crawled out. The Queen. Not Null. Not Venom. Something older. Pure instinct. The origin of all symbiotes. A living hive mind that never needed a name, because anything that saw her surrendered. Across Earth, every trace of symbiote matter ignited. The black veins in Peter's skin glowed. The residue in Hulk's arm pulsed. Tony's lab lit up like a dying star. She's connecting to all fragments, Bruce said, backing up. She's trying to merge. Tony grabbed a syringe. We inject Peter now. We cut the link. But it was too late. Peter opened his eyes. Not red, not black, just white, pale and glowing. He stood, unstrapped himself, and whispered, "I can feel her." Tony aimed the syringe. Then we shut her out. Peter looked at him. "If you do that, we'll lose everything." Everything. Peter walked past him and pointed out the window. "Every infected host is still alive because I held the link. If I let go, she takes full control. We lose New York in minutes." Bruce moved toward the window and gasped. The infected bodies across the city were standing up again. But they weren't attacking. They were walking, in perfect synchrony, all toward the same point, Central Park. A convergence. "She's landing there," Peter whispered. "That's where she'll form the new hive." Tony's mind raced. "We have one shot. I've got a kill code bomb, EMP layered with a neurodampener." Bruce raised an eyebrow. "Won't that fry Peter's brain?" "Only if he's still bonded." They both turned. Peter was already walking toward the elevator. "I'm going alone." Tony stepped forward. "You'll never come back." Peter turned just slightly. "I don't need to." The elevator closed. He didn't wear the suit. He didn't need it. The symbiote was his armor now, not fully, but enough. Every step he took, the black webbing rewrapped his chest, his arms, his legs, a living suit stitched from pain and forgiveness. As he neared Central Park, the air grew thick. Birds avoided the sky. Trees bent away. The grass turned oily. And in the center, like a blooming flower made of shadow and bone, the Queen stood. She didn't speak with a mouth. She radiated intention, and every infected human knelt before her. Peter didn't kneel. He walked straight up to her, heart hammering. The Queen moved closer. She was 12 feet tall, 1,000 tendrils forming wings behind her. Her face was always shifting, Gwen's, MJ's, Aunt May's, even Peter's own, flickering between them like memories made of oil. Peter spoke first. "You can't take me." The Queen tilted her head, then touched his chest, and entered. In that instant, the world shattered. Inside Peter's mind, he was floating through a black ocean of endless voices. The Queen didn't fight like Venom. She invaded. She made you doubt yourself until you gave in. She showed him visions of Earth burning, Avengers on their knees, Tony begging, Hulk crying, Miles Morales infected, MJ screaming his name as she dissolved into ink. And then silence. Because Peter did something no one had ever done inside the Queen's mind. He sat down. He didn't fight. He waited. And when the Queen surrounded him in darkness, he whispered a memory. His first kiss, his first swing, his first web, all the light the Queen could never understand. And in that moment, she flinched. Peter smiled. "You can infect 1,000,000 minds, but you'll never be human." Then he opened his own memory vault, flooded the Queen's mind with every act of mercy he'd ever performed. Every life saved, every villain spared, every tear he wiped from someone else's face. The Queen shrieked. In the real world, her body staggered backward, tendrils spasming. Peter stood tall, eyes glowing gold now, not white. He raised one hand. The Queen lunged. And that was the moment Iron Man detonated the bomb. It wasn't just an explosion, it was a silence wave. Everything stopped. The infected collapsed. The Queen's body twisted, roared, then evaporated. Peter fell. Tony caught him midair with a half-damaged suit. Bruce ran in, scanning vitals. He was alive. Barely. But the link was severed. Peter opened one eye. Did we win? Tony looked around the silent park, covered in webbing and bodies. "No," he said. "You did." Peter passed out, and beneath the grass, unseen by all, one last drop of black webbing slithered underground. Still breathing, still waiting. Peter awoke inside a containment chamber beneath Stark Tower. The glass around him was cracked. The lights above flickered with no rhythm. And in his ears, the world was buzzing like a warning signal no one else could hear. He wasn't alone. Tony stood outside, arms crossed, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Bruce was seated beside him, holding a scanner that wouldn't stop flashing red. "She's gone," Bruce muttered, but something still inside him. "She didn't come to conquer," Peter said softly. "She came to see if I was ready." Tony didn't speak, but he leaned closer to the glass. "She tested you like a game?" Peter shook his head. "Not a game, a filter. Every infected person was a trial. She wanted to see if a single host could override the hive. If someone could survive her without becoming her." "Why?" Bruce asked. "Because she's not the end," Peter said. "She's the beginning." Suddenly, the tower systems crashed. Alarms didn't go off. They shut down. The lights turned blood red. And from every dark corner of the lab, black slime crept toward the center. Tony raised his arm. "We cleared every sample." Bruce stepped back. "No, that's not residue. That's new." The slime pulsed with something sentient. And then it spoke, not through sound, but through pressure in the air. "She failed." Peter stepped out of the chamber. The slime formed into a floating sigil, an ancient mark no human language could decode. But Peter understood it instantly. It was a name, the progenitor. The queen was just a scout. Something older was listening. Something bigger was coming. Peter dropped to his knees, because in the back of his mind, something began whispering again. But it wasn't a scream or a threat. It was laughter, not hers, his. And Peter saw it clearly, deep inside the hive's memory web. A world made of bone, a throne made of teeth, and a shadow sitting on it, laughing in a voice that didn't echo. It infected. He wasn't coming to bond. He was coming to erase. Tony looked at Peter. "What did you see?" Peter's voice was hollow. "A god who doesn't want to rule, just replace." In the sky above Earth, a single black star flickered into view. It pulsed once, then disappeared. Bruce stared at the monitor. That wasn't a star. That was an eye. Peter walked toward the window, fingers trembling. "We thought Venom was the threat." He looked down at his palms, the webbing scars now glowing faintly. But Venom was the warning. Peter sat in silence beneath the stars that weren't really stars anymore. The black dot in the sky, the one Bruce had called an eye, hadn't blinked since. It was just there, watching, waiting, listening to see if Earth would break. It hadn't moved, but the web beneath Peter's skin had. He could feel it, the hive link. It wasn't screaming anymore. It was humming. The queen was gone, but her signal still pulsed in the atmosphere like a drumbeat from deep space. It was a countdown. Tony ran 100 scans, but none of them found a clear origin. No source, no host, just a frequency that only Peter could feel or hear. And it was getting louder. He stood alone in the chamber they built for him. No restraints, no walls, just layered fields of magnetism to keep the biosignal from leaking. Not a prison, not yet, but a decision box. Because if Peter stayed free, the signal would reach him. And if it reached him, they'd come back, all of them. The progenitor, the hive war, the end of Earth as a memory. He paced in silence, fingers twitching. Then the pain started again. Not physical, emotional. The symbiote didn't want war. It wanted unity. That was the worst part. It showed him images of peace, of order, of billions thinking as one. A world without secrets, without shame, but without freedom. Peter opened his hand, watched the tendrils respond. He could control them, for now. But every moment, they grew more curious, more patient, like children pretending to obey. And then it whispered again, "You were the perfect host." Tony's voice came through the comm. "You don't have to do this." Peter didn't answer. He walked toward the containment pod in the center of the room. Stark had built it for emergencies, but this wasn't that anymore. This was a choice. He placed one hand on the glass. The seal hissed open. Bruce entered behind him, holding the remote shutdown switch. "You go in there, Pete. It's not an app. No contact. No connection. You'll be suspended, mentally frozen, biologically monitored, isolated in a neurostatic vacuum." "I know," Peter said. Bruce stepped forward. "Then say it. Say why you're doing this." Peter turned to him. "Because I felt what's coming." He looked up at the dark sky through the skylight. "And I don't think I can stop it next time." Bruce swallowed hard. Peter stepped into the chamber. The glass closed. The hiss sealed. Inside, everything went quiet. The world blurred. He didn't look afraid. He looked tired. Through the comm, Tony's voice cracked. "You're still Spider-Man, Pete." Peter gave a faint smile. "Not today." And then the light faded from the chamber as the stasis field activated. Peter's body relaxed. The webbing inside him dimmed. The signal fell silent. For now, outside the glass, Hulk placed his hand on the chamber's wall. Tony etched a single line beneath the display window. He didn't save the world with power. He did it with pain. Miles Morales stood nearby, watching. He said nothing. But in his hand, a small tendril of black web twitched. Still alive. Still listening. The war wasn't over, but Peter had bought the world time. The end.